Yasodanandana Rajajandaranjana Nayamunatira Vanachari Amunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Ganja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Ganja Vihari Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Jai Radha Govardhana Krishna Balaram Logira Shishi Gonitai Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So today is a very special day, the Ratha Yatra of Lord Jagannath. I'm going to read a verse here from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sajayati Krishna Chaitanya Shri Ranankri Nanataya Yena Sis Jagatam Chitram Jagannatho Pivishmita. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya, who danced in front of the Sri Jagannath, be all glorified by seeing his dancing. Not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. Yes. So just I thought today we have a little talk on this festival. So this Ratha Yatra festival, actually, or sometimes called the Festival of the Chariots, is one of the most colourful festivals of the whole year. And it draws very large crowds of people. Of course, we know in Jagannath Puri, like 10 million people come to this festival. And of course, these festivals, London, New York, France, large festival, many people come. So among all the festivals of India, Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra festival actually is the most famous. And it's the oldest festival in history of the earth. It's the oldest festival. And according to the scriptures, it took place some, I think, 153,400,000 years ago. The first Ratha Yatra festival in Satyuga. It's a long time ago. You know, as a very young boy, Srila Prabhupada, he first celebrated this Ratha Yatra in Calcutta with his parents. And this really inspired him at a very young age to have his own cart and perform his own festival, his own Ratha Yatra festival. And he was gifted with a small cart, a little 3-foot cart, which he and his father modified to resemble the traditional Jagannath Ratha Yatra carts. And although Srila Prabhupada was only 4 or 5 years old at the time, he personally organized all aspects of his yearly 8-day Ratha Yatra festival. He would personally paint the cart, dress the deities, offer the bhoga, perform the artis, and he also inspired his sister and playmates to help, and he inspired So, we see that Lord Jagannath, Srila Prabhupada, had this inborn love for Lord Jagannath throughout his whole life. And out of his compassion, he brought this Ratha Yatra festival as a blessing to the people of this world. Now the whole planet receives Lord Jagannath's mercy. I mean, the very name Jagannath indicates he is the Lord of the whole world, actually. Jagat means universe, Natha means Lord or Master. So this means that he is the Lord of the world and universe, irrespective of people's race or country or religion. Whether a person is a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, whatever, by logic, they must accept Lord Jagannath as Lord of the universe, who is none other than Krishna himself. He is the Lord and Master of everyone. So, this Ratha Yatra festival, what it does, actually it reveals the magnanimity of Lord Jagannath as the most merciful form of the Lord. He is so merciful that he emerges from his temple just to give his darshan and bless one and all. You know, it is said Lord Jagannath's divine form with both his arms upraised, stretching outwards, shows how much he loves everyone. He just wants to embrace everyone. And his large circular-shaped eyes are always open because he wants to constantly cast his merciful glance on everyone. You know, when Jagannath's on his cart, he's watching every single one of us. He's glancing at every single person. And through that glance, he's blessing everyone. Yes. So these forms of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they're not deformed or incomplete forms. Actually, they are eternal, super complete forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And they are worshipped eternally. You know, Srila Prabhupada explains how Sri Krishna may be seen in other deity forms, like we see here on the altar. But the charming beauty of Lord Jagannath is very unique. Why is it unique? It's unique in a sense that one glance from Lord Jagannath frees one from the miseries of material existence and grants perfection or ultimate liberation. And this has been confirmed in the Padma Purana, that if one simply just once sees Lord Jagannath while he's riding on his Rath, his chariot, they will not have to take birth again in this material world. So they asked Srila Prabhupada, how is this? Prabhupada explained how at the moment of death, what happens? Your whole life is flashing before you. And just before you actually die and leave this body, by the Lord's mercy, a picture of Lord Jagannath will come up in your mind. And you'll attain liberation. Yes. But Srila Prabhupada also noted that this shouldn't mean because I've seen Jagannath on his chariot, my liberation is guaranteed. Therefore I can simply do anything I like. Srila Prabhupada stated, this mentality will not give you liberation. You've seen Jagannath, your sinful activities are neutralized, but don't commit again. Then your liberation is guaranteed. So, in the Skanda Purana, it talks about the pastimes of Lord Jagannath. And there it mentions that there's 3 important items present during the Ratha Yatra parade for our eternal benefit. Firstly is the air that surrounds the cart. After touching the form of Lord Jagannath, it enters the people's bodies through their noses and purifies them of all their sinful reactions from their previous lives. The air. Secondly, by receiving the merciful glance of the Lord, the crowd of people become purified, externally and internally. Yes. And thirdly, when the cart moves, especially we see that in India, the dust, it swirls around, covering the bodies of the worshippers. And this dust purifies them. In this way, by the Lord's compassion and mercy, the Lord's compassion and mercy increases so much more as he leaves his altar and rides on his Ratha Yatra cars. In 1967, at the Gaur Day, which is the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada performed the first ISKCON installation ceremony of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra in San Francisco, in our first Western temple called New Jagannath Puri. And it was here in San Francisco on the 9th of July in 1967, the devotees of ISKCON held the first Ratha Yatra festival in the Western world. But now, thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we see many devotees worship Jagannath deities in temples, in their homes, in practically every country of the world. In 1973, Srila Prabhupada stated in a letter to one of his leading disciples that I want to see my disciples all over the world introduce 2 items: Radha Krishna temples and Ratha Yatra festivals. Srila Prabhupada considered these Ratha Yatra festivals very, very important. Now we see this by the endeavor of Srila Prabhupada and his dedicated followers. These Ratha Yatra festivals can be seen all over the world in hundreds of cities, towns, villages. When asked, what is the purpose of Ratha Yatra? Prabhupada replied, the purpose of Ratha Yatra is to see how Krishna is enjoying. How Krishna is enjoying. Srila Prabhupada is teaching us that we should attend these spiritual festivals to increase Krishna's enjoyment and pleasure. Simply by serving the Lord and his devotees. Singing in the kirtans, dancing, cooking, performing so many different services for the Lord's pleasure. Krishna enjoys so much this loving reciprocation with his devotees. Krishna enjoys being overwhelmed by the love of each of his sincere, pure-hearted devotees who just are simply serving him for his pleasure. Although, Krishna, he doesn't need anything from anyone. He's completely self-satisfied. Still, he longs for our love and our devotion. And the more we sincerely serve him, the more he appreciates our service, and as a result, he blesses us in so many different ways. Not only with spiritual realization, spiritual advancement, inner happiness and peace, but he allows us to enter into a very personal relationship with him and experience his intimate and eternal friendship. So it was Lord Chaitanya actually who taught us the special significance of Ratha Yatra festival. That it's not just simply a preaching event, a preaching event so we can involve different people in Krishna's wonderful pastimes, but it's a medium for Vaishnava devotees to be absorbed in the mood of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, to taste what it means to be separated from Krishna. When Krishna was a young boy, he left Vrindavan. He went to Mathura, then he went to Dwarka. He became king of the Yadus. So he was not visible in Vrindavan for 100 years. So all the devotees in Vrindavan, Radharani, Nanda and Yasoda, the cowherd boys, the cowherd girls, the cows, the calves, all the other residents and living entities in Vrindavan were feeling these extreme pangs of separation from Krishna because they loved him so much. He was their very life and soul. Therefore, their only business was to simply think of Krishna and cry. So this devotional separation represents, as I said, the pinnacle of devotion. It's only experienced by those devotees, pure devotees, who have the highest qualification. Yes. It's this mood of separation, vipralamba bhava, it's the highest stage of pure love for Krishna. But actually, in the scriptures we read, actually there's no separation. Because the feeling of separation out of ecstatic love for Krishna is eternally present in the core of their hearts. Therefore, internally, they're experiencing the greatest bliss. For it is said, Krishna can be felt more strongly in separation from him. When you see Krishna, you just see him in one place. But in separation, wherever they look, they see Krishna. So these Rajavasis, out of separation, sometimes they would visit Krishna at Kurukshetra. And they would plead with him, "Oh Krishna, this place, Kurukshetra, is nothing like our beautiful Vrindavan. We are surrounded not by armies, but by cows and cowherd boys, where you wear a peacock feather and play beautiful tunes on your flute. Therefore, please don't stay here, Krishna. Come back to Vrindavan with us. We have come such a long distance to see you. Please come back to Vrindavan. We are missing you so much." So in the same way, we've also been away from Krishna for so many lifetimes. Such a long, long time. So we want to bring Krishna back to reside upon the golden throne within our hearts. So this Ratha Yatra festival, actually, it's a transcendental medium for us devotees to be absorbed in the mood of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Taste what it means to be separated from Krishna. Now, Krishna is so far, far away in the spiritual world, and we are way, way, way down here on planet Earth. So we want to be with him in Vrindavan. So this is the significance of Ratha Yatra, where the eager devotees in the mood of the Vrajvasis, pulling the cart, begging the Lord to come back to Vrindavan, back to residing upon the golden throne within our hearts. Yes. Of course, in order to receive the Lord within our hearts must be pure. Therefore, we need to purify and cleanse the heart. You know, Lord Chaitanya, as a world teacher, was teaching us by his pastime of cleansing the Gundicha temple before the Ratha Yatra, that if one wants to see Krishna seated in one's heart, one must first cleanse the heart. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, everyone's heart is impure. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommends that every day, daily, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant the Lord's holy name and hear about his transcendental glories. You know, if the heart is filled with straw and dirt and sand, such as lust and greed and envy and pride and illusion, one cannot enthrone the Lord there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives. Even though one may cleanse the heart, sometimes we see subtle desires, they again come to being within the heart. So one must be continuously cleansing the heart for one's whole lifetime. Every day, chanting, hearing, eating Krishna Prasad, performing devotional service to the Lord, which will purify the heart and naturally awaken our eternal love for Krishna. You know, to teach us this, Lord Chaitanya, during his pastime of cleansing the Gundicha temple, he had everyone cleanse the temple for a second time. And this second cleansing was more thoroughly done than the first time. So anyone who was fortunate enough to take up this bhakti yoga process under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master can easily attain perfection in this one very lifetime. This is the significance of Ratha Yatra. Yes, whereby us eager devotees in the mood of the Vrajvasis are begging the Lord to come back to Vrindavan, back to residing within their hearts as they pull the cart. And this was exemplified by Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes, during the Ratha Yatra pastimes. You know, his eyes and his mind were just fully absorbed in Lord Jagannath's beautiful form. With his, you know, Lord Chaitanya was reciting beautiful prayers to Lord Jagannath during the Ratha Yatra festival, with his arms upraised, expressing his divine love, beckoning him to return to Vrindavan, where everyone was missing him so much. So Lord Chaitanya, he is Krishna himself, but he has the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. You know, when Krishna desired to know the glory of Radha's love, you know, why is she so much in love with me? And when she feels my love, what is she actually feeling? So to taste the essence of that loving exchange and understand himself, through the agency of Radha, Krishna actually united with Radharani, and that unification is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, But he's taken the mood and the role of Srimati Radharani to show us how to love Krishna. So this is the confidential reason for the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, when Krishna was feeling acute pangs of separation from Radharani, he becomes completely ecstatic. And that internal mood, that bhava, would sometimes change his external form. His arms and legs would contract into his body, and his eyes would become dilated into big circles, and he'd have a big smile on his face. So this is the form of Jagannath, exhibiting his ecstatic, it's Krishna exhibiting his ecstatic mood and separation from the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So Lord Jagannath, he's actually Shyama Sundara, Krishna himself. But when we look at Jagannath externally, we cannot see this form. We cannot see this form of Shyama Sundara, a threefold bending form, playing his flute. However, Lord Jagannath revealed that form to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he has assumed the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, it is said, in Jagannath Puri, we find two crying forms of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of Srimati Radharani is crying for Krishna, and Lord Jagannath is Shyama Sundara Krishna crying for Radharani. Yes. You know, Sanatana Goswami, he declared that we should always remember that Lord Jagannath, he's not just a lifeless log or a wooden statue. He only pretends to be. Sometimes he jokes and enjoys special loving pastimes with his devotees. Every chance he gets, he indulges in all sorts of sports and tricks with his pujaris and devotees. There's many, many stories, actually, about Lord Jagannath interacting with his devotees like this. So, you know, how is this? How is this possible? So according to authentic Vedic literatures and genuine spiritual authorities, this deity worship of Lord Jagannath, or Radha and Krishna, Gaunitai, Krishna Balaram, is in fact bona fide worship of the Lord in his original transcendental form. Yes. How is this possible? It's almost inconceivable to our mind and intelligence that the Supreme Lord can actually take on forms made of wood, matter, such as wood, clay, metal, jewels, stone. You know, how is it possible that Krishna can be really there in his incarnation, you know, in these forms? To understand these things, we need some transcendental insights into the Lord's transcendental nature. Try and understand actually that ultimately Krishna is a supreme controller. And as such, he can appear in any form he likes. Because he's a supreme controller, he's controlling both spiritual and material energies. Therefore, he can convert his different potencies according to his will. He can convert material energy into spiritual energy. This means that just as he appears personally in different incarnations, he can also take on these forms of matter, such as wood, clay, stone, metal, and personally accept our service. So these are not just mere representations of the Lord we see on the altar. Krishna is actually really there. We just don't have the spiritual vision to see. So how does Krishna do this? He can do this because he is a supreme controller. I mean, who can restrict Krishna from coming in whatever form he likes? You know, in our present materially conditioned state, we cannot see the Supreme Lord's transcendental spiritual form. We don't have the spiritual vision. So in order to be seen by us, the Supreme Lord mercifully accepts a favorable form to be seen, such as his archer incarnation, the form of the deity. And throughout the scriptures we find many stories of great saints and sages who are personally interacting with the Supreme Lord in his deity form. I can tell one story. My favorite story, Jagannath pastime, is the story of Dasya Buri. You know, Dasya Buri, actually this Dasya Buri was a Muslim. He lived 30 kilometers from Jagannath Puri. And actually he was from a village of the untouchables. They're not very high class people actually. They perform a lot of sinful things. And these people are not even allowed to come to the Jagannath Temple or come to the RATHA YATRA festival. They're restricted. But this Dasya Buri, he was a weaver by profession. You know, he never actually had any education. But he used to sing beautiful songs about Jagannath. He had beautiful songs, beautiful poems. And you know, when the Jagannath festival was on, he would stand at a distance and tears would come from his eyes. He had this incredible love for Lord Jagannath. And he had one desire. He wanted to offer some mangoes to Lord Jagannath. He wanted to make an offering to Lord Jagannath. So one day he carried a big basket of mangoes. He carried them 30 kilometers. And he couldn't come to the temple, but he sat out in the fields. You know, he had the basket of mangoes there. And he started offering these mangoes to Lord Jagannath from a distance. Actually, as he was making the offering, some pujaris were walking past from the Jagannath temple. And they saw him and they were scoffing. They said, "Oh, how is it possible that Lord Jagannath, it appears that this untouchable is making an offering to Lord Jagannath. How is it possible that Lord Jagannath will accept his offering?" But then they noticed that the mangoes from the basket disappeared. And they thought, "Whoa, what's this? This is very mystical." Then they ran to the temple and they went into the inner chamber of the deity, where the deity of Lord Jagannath was on the altar. And they noticed there was bits of mango pulp strewn all over the altar. And there was mango juice running down Jagannath's face. Yeah. This is just Dasya Buri. He became a famous devotee, actually. And if you go to the Jagannath temple, you'll see there's a window there in the wall of the temple where he used to come and get the darshan. Yes. You know, 2 weeks before the RATHA YATRA festival, you know, Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra, they take their public bath, Snana Yatra. And they perform this pastime of catching a cold and fever due to the exposure to the cool breezes. So we know that Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they're taken into seclusion for 15 days, where the Lord remains away from his devotees, just to enhance that feelings of love and separation from him. So after that time, they reappear before their loving devotees one day before the RATHA YATRA festival, dressed in their finest robes and ornaments. You know, in Jagannath Puri, you know, Jagannath, they have beautiful costumes. Actually, sometimes they dress Jagannath in very simple costumes, just like in Vrindavan, like Krishna the cowherd boy, with a dhoti and turban and peacock feather. But sometimes they dress him in very opulent, in the mood of Dwarka, where Lord Jagannath, they're wearing a costume that weighs 1 ton of pure gold. Very opulent. So once the deities were seated upon their chariots, all the Vaishnavas, they come together to prepare for the RATHA YATRA parade. So at this time, Lord Chaitanya, with his own hand, he would come, they would decorate the devotees with beautiful flower garlands and anoint them with sandalwood pulp. Then Lord Chaitanya would form 5 kirtan parties with 24 chanters in each party. He'd appoint certain persons to lead the kirtan, certain persons to dance in the kirtan, and soon after 2 more kirtan groups would come from nearby villages. So there were 7 kirtan parties. And each party had 2 mridangas, so there was 14 drums. Were creating this tumultuous sound, which was just causing the devotees to become ecstatic in the kirtan. And as the carts moved, it is said Lord Jagannath's mind was just filled with pleasure. And sometimes due to his desire, the cart went fast, sometimes it went slow. So the cart actually moved according to the Lord's will, not by the strength of the persons pulling the cart. And there's one pastime where the cart actually stopped and they couldn't move the cart. And they pushed and they pushed. And even the king, he brought big elephants. He brought big wrestlers, big strong wrestlers to try and pull the cart. They still couldn't pull the cart. Then they brought elephants. The cart wouldn't move. Lord Jagannath just decided to stop the cart. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came forward and he put his head on the cart and he pushed the cart and the cart started moving again. So each of these carts in Jagannath Puri, they're so heavy. You know, it takes 500 people to pull each cart. And they pull the carts 2.8 kilometers down the main road of Jagannath Puri to the famous Gundicha temple, which is said to represent Vrindavan. Yes. So as all the devotees chanted and danced in ecstasy, tears flowing from their eyes, Lord Chaitanya would be wandering throughout the 7 groups of chanters, chanting and dancing ecstatically, crying out, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath. Then he exhibited his mystic power by simultaneously appearing and performing pastimes in all 7 groups at the same time. Suddenly there was 7 Lord Chaitanyas, 1 dancing in each group. Of course, everyone in each group was feeling joyful, thinking Lord Chaitanya has chosen our group to dance. They didn't realize he was also present in the other 6 groups. So, as I said, Lord Chaitanya, he was jumping so high, roaring like thunder, spinning in circles so fast. Sometimes he appeared stunned. Other times his hair stood on end. Sometimes he cried and trembled. It is said sometimes he even changed color. Sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, humility, just dancing ecstatically for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. Actually, sometimes when he was dancing, Lord Chaitanya would begin to fall and crash to the ground. Then Lord Nityananda would run forward with his arms and catch Lord Chaitanya with his arms. And Lord Jagannath was so pleased. Actually, sometimes he'd bring the cart to a complete standstill just to watch Lord Chaitanya's dancing performance. Also, Baladev Subhadra was smiling radiantly, feeling great joy seeing Lord Jagannath dancing, ecstatic dancing, expressing his divine love, just swimming in the ocean of Radha Bhav. He would call out to Lord Jagannath in the mood of Srimati Radharani, saying, "You are the same Krishna, and I am the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Although we are still both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vrindavan. Therefore I wish you will please again appear with your lotus feet in Vrindavan." You know, here in Kurukshetra, there's just crowds of people, elephants, horses, chariots. But in Vrindavan there is only beautiful flower gardens, the humming of bees, the chirping of birds. Here in Kurukshetra you're dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors and weapons. But in Vrindavan you were just like an ordinary cowherd boy, with your peacock feather and your beautiful turban and yellow garments, accompanied by your beautiful flute. Here in Kurukshetra there's not even a drop of the ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vrindavan. Therefore I request you, Krishna, don't stay here. You are the life and soul of Vrindavan. Please come back to Vrindavan and kindly keep your lotus feet there again. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya was beckoning the Lord to come back to Vrindavan, to reunite with his loving devotees who missed him so much. See, there's sometimes Lord Chaitanya would dance in front of Jagannath's cart, and sometimes he would fall behind Jagannath's cart. So Srila Prabhupada explains that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that when Lord Chaitanya falls back behind the cart of Lord Jagannath, this indicates that Krishna, who is Lord Jagannath, has forgotten the inhabitants of Vrindavan. At this time, Lord Jagannath, who is Krishna himself, could understand the mind of Lord Chaitanya, who is in the mood of Radharani. However, Krishna could not forget them. Thus, in his royal Ratha Yatra, he was returning to Vrindavan. Therefore, Lord Jagannath would bring the cart to a standstill and wait for Lord Chaitanya to once again come in front of the cart. In this way, Lord Jagannath agreed. Without the presence of Srimati Radharani, he could not feel satisfied. So these competitive exchanges were all part of the loving affairs between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So it is said in the mood and transcendental emotion of Srimati Radharani, Gauranga's eyes, Lord Chaitanya's eyes, were thirsty to see the beautiful face of Lord Jagannath. His eyes, it is said, became like two bumblebees drinking the honey from the lotus eyes of Lord Jagannath, who is Krishna himself. And it is stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Lord Chaitanya was so fully absorbed in Jagannath's beauty that he simply forgot everything. So this Ratha Yatra festival, it's a transcendental medium for us devotees to be absorbed in this mood of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, to taste what it means to be separated from Krishna. We want to bring Krishna back to residing upon the golden throne within our hearts. So on this auspicious day of Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra, we should all pray for the mercy of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra, that they may spiritually uplift us, purify our hearts, ultimately deliver us from this vast ocean of material existence and take us back to our real home, in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, at the end of our life. Jai Shri Jagannath Bale Subhadra ki, Shri Shri RATHA YATRA ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Go, Premanandi, Hare Krishna. So, everyone, today we're assembling down there at the cart at 10 a.m. So you can start there. We have to start the kirtan, and we can all be pulling the cart in that mood of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. We're bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. Yes, Hare Krishna.